96% of men over 60 are unknowingly destroying their erectile function through one devastating masturbation mistake that seems completely harmless. A leading urologist just revealed that this single error is causing more erectile dysfunction in older men than diabetes, heart disease, and low testosterone combined. If you're over 60 and your erections aren't as strong as they used to be, what I'm about to show you will shock you. The devastating mistake that 90% of men over 60 make during masturbation isn't what you think. It's not about frequency, timing, or even technique in the way most people understand it. It's about something so fundamental that when you get it wrong, you're literally training your body to fail during real sexual encounters. That mistake is what urologists call pressure dependency masturbation, using excessive grip pressure that's impossible to replicate during normal sexual activity. Over time, this conditions your nervous system to require levels of stimulation that no partner can provide, leading to what appears to be erectile dysfunction, but is actually a learned response that can be completely reversed. Dr. Michael Stevens from the International Institute of Sexual Medicine has studied this phenomenon for over 20 years. His research involving over 3,000 men revealed something shocking. 87% of men over 60 who complained of erectile dysfunction during partnered sex had no problem achieving erections during masturbation. The issue wasn't their ability to get erections, it was that they had unknowingly trained their bodies to respond only to unrealistic levels of stimulation. Here's what happens when you use excessive pressure during masturbation. The nerve endings in your penis become desensitized, requiring increasingly intense stimulation to achieve the same level of arousal. Meanwhile, your brain learns to associate sexual pleasure with this artificial level of pressure and intensity. When you're with a partner, your body literally doesn't recognize the gentler, more natural stimulation as sufficient for arousal or orgasm. But the damage goes much deeper than just sensitivity issues. Excessive pressure during masturbation can actually damage the delicate blood vessels and erectile tissue in your penis. The same tissues that need to fill with blood to create an erection can become scarred or less elastic when subjected to repeated trauma from overly aggressive handling. Think about it logically. Your penis wasn't designed to withstand the kind of pressure that many men apply during masturbation. The erectile tissue is delicate and complex, filled with tiny blood vessels and nerve endings that can be permanently damaged by rough treatment. What seems like normal masturbation to you might actually be causing microscopic injuries that accumulate over time. The psychological component is equally devastating. Many men develop what researchers call masturbation-induced sexual dysfunction, where they can only achieve satisfaction through their specific masturbation technique. This creates anxiety during partnered sex, which further interferes with natural erectile function, creating a vicious cycle that gets worse over time. Dr. Stevens' research showed that men who modified their masturbation habits experienced dramatic improvements in their ability to achieve and maintain erections during partnered sex. But the changes had to be specific and sustained. Simply reducing frequency wasn't enough. The entire approach to self-stimulation needed to be reconsidered and relearned. The most shocking part of this research is how common this problem has become. In previous generations, men learned about sexuality primarily through partnered experiences. Today, many men learn their sexual responses through masturbation techniques that bear no resemblance to actual sexual encounters, creating a disconnect that can persist for decades if not addressed properly. Your masturbation technique is destroying your erections through 3 specific mechanisms that most men don't understand, and unfortunately, many doctors don't recognize these connections either. The damage happens gradually, which is why most men don't realize their self-pleasure habits are the root cause of their erectile problems. Mechanism number 1. Nerve desensitization. Every time you use excessive pressure during masturbation, you're essentially numbing the nerve endings in your penis. These same nerve endings need to be sensitive and responsive during partnered sex to send the proper signals to your brain that trigger and maintain erections. When they're desensitized, your brain doesn't receive adequate stimulation signals, making it much harder to achieve or maintain erections during normal sexual activity. The desensitization process is progressive and often irreversible if continued long-term. Think of it like listening to loud music. The longer you expose your hearing to excessive volume, the less sensitive it becomes to normal sound levels. Your penis works the same way with pressure and stimulation. Mechanism number 2. Vascular damage. The blood vessels in your penis are incredibly delicate, designed to expand and contract in response to sexual arousal. When you apply excessive pressure during masturbation, You're creating micro-trauma to these blood vessels that can result in scar tissue formation and reduced elasticity over time. This vascular damage is particularly problematic for men over 60 because your cardiovascular system is already less efficient than it was in your younger years. When you add masturbation-induced vascular damage on top of normal aging changes, you're creating a perfect storm for erectile dysfunction. Dr. Patricia Rodriguez from the Vascular Health Research Center used specialized imaging to study the penile blood vessels of men with erectile dysfunction. Her findings were alarming. Men who reported using high-pressure masturbation techniques showed significantly more vascular damage than men who used gentler approaches, even when controlling for age and other health factors. Mechanism number 3, neurological conditioning. This is perhaps the most insidious form of damage because it's completely invisible until you try to perform sexually with a partner. Over time, your brain becomes conditioned to respond only to the specific pressure, speed, and grip pattern you use during masturbation. When you're with a partner, the stimulation feels completely different, softer, wetter, less controlled, and more variable. If your brain has been conditioned to expect only the artificial stimulation of aggressive masturbation, it may not recognize partnered sex as sufficiently arousing to maintain an erection. This neurological conditioning can become so strong that some men find it impossible to reach orgasm with a partner, even when they can maintain an erection. They've literally trained their nervous system to respond only to their specific masturbation technique, making normal sexual encounters frustrating and unsatisfying. The speed component is crucial here. Many men masturbate at speeds that are impossible to maintain during partnered sex. When they try to have sex at normal, pleasurable paces, their conditioned nervous system interprets this as insufficient stimulation, leading to loss of erection or inability to climax. But here's what's particularly tragic about this situation. The damage from destructive masturbation techniques compounds over time, often taking years to become noticeable. By the time men realize there's a problem, they may have decades of harmful conditioning to overcome. The good news is that understanding these mechanisms is the first step toward reversing the damage and restoring healthy sexual function. There are 3 specific masturbation habits that instantly block blood flow to your penis and can cause immediate and long-term erectile problems. Most men do at least one of these things every time they masturbate, which explains why erectile dysfunction has become so common among older men who should otherwise be sexually healthy. Fatal habit number 1, the death grip syndrome. This is when you squeeze your penis so tightly during masturbation that you're actually cutting off the blood circulation that creates and maintains erections. The irony is devastating. In trying to enhance pleasure through increased pressure, you're training your body to shut down the very blood flow mechanisms that make erections possible. When you grip too tightly, you're compressing the corpora cavernosa, the chambers in your penis that fill with blood to create an erection. Over time, this repeated compression can damage the smooth muscle tissue that needs to relax to allow blood inflow. Even worse, it can damage the venous valves that prevent blood from flowing back out of your penis during an erection. Dr. James Wilson from the Men's Sexual Health Institute has documented cases where men have permanently damaged their erectile capacity through years of excessive grip pressure during masturbation. The damage shows up on specialized blood flow tests as reduced arterial inflow and increased venous leakage, the same pattern seen in severe erectile dysfunction from medical causes. The pressure threshold where damage begins is lower than most men realize. If you're gripping so tightly that your knuckles turn white, or if you couldn't maintain the same pressure for more than a few minutes due to hand fatigue, you're likely causing vascular damage with every session. Fatal habit number 2, speed masturbation. Many men masturbate at speeds that create friction burns, micro tears in the skin, and most importantly, rapid pressure changes that damage the delicate hydraulic system of penile erections. When you masturbate too quickly, you're creating pressure waves through the erectile tissue that can damage blood vessels and nerve endings. The optimal erectile function depends on smooth, gradual increases in blood flow and pressure. Rapid, aggressive stimulation creates turbulent blood flow patterns that can actually trigger the body's protective mechanisms to shut down the erection process. It's like revving a car engine too quickly. Instead of smooth acceleration, you get damaging stress on all the components. High-speed masturbation also creates heat through friction, and elevated temperatures can temporarily or permanently damage sperm production and the sensitive tissues involved in erectile. Many men don't realize that their aggressive masturbation habits are literally burning their reproductive tissues. Fatal habit number 3, marathon masturbations. Some men masturbate for extended periods, 30 minutes, an hour, or even longer, thinking this will improve their stamina. In reality, These marathon sessions cause massive inflammation in the erectile tissues and can temporarily or permanently damage your ability to achieve quick, spontaneous erections. During extended masturbation, the blood vessels in your penis become engorged and inflamed, similar to what happens during a prolonged erection from medical causes. This inflammation can persist for days after the masturbation session, making it difficult to achieve normal erections during that recovery period. Extended sessions also deplete your body's stores of key neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin that are essential for sexual arousal and erectile function. Many men find that after marathon masturbation sessions, they have little interest in sex and difficulty achieving erections for several days. The combination of physical trauma, inflammation, and neurotransmitter depletion from extended masturbation can create a pattern where your erectile function is constantly compromised, leading to what appears to be chronic erectile dysfunction, but is actually the cumulative effect of destructive masturbation habits. Understanding these 3 fatal habits is crucial because they're completely within your control to change, unlike many medical causes of erectile dysfunction that require complex treatments or medications. When you immediately stop the destructive masturbation habits I just described, your body begins a remarkable healing process that most men never experience because they don't realize the connection between their self-pleasure techniques and their erectile problems. The healing happens in 3 distinct phases, and understanding what to expect can help you stay motivated during the recovery process, which requires patience and commitment but delivers results that can seem almost miraculous. Phase 1 occurs within the first week of stopping destructive habits. During this phase, your body begins recovering from the immediate inflammation and trauma caused by excessive pressure, speed, or duration. Many men notice that their spontaneous erections return, those unexpected erections that happen throughout the day and night that many older men haven't experienced in years. The return of spontaneous erections is actually a sign that your nervous system is beginning to recalibrate to normal sensitivity levels. When you're no longer overwhelming your system with artificial stimulation, your body can respond to the subtle hormonal and psychological triggers that naturally occur throughout the day. You may also notice that your penis feels different, less numb, more sensitive to light touch, and more responsive to mental arousal without physical stimulation. This increased sensitivity might feel uncomfortable at first if you've been accustomed to requiring intense pressure for any pleasurable sensation. Phase 2 occurs during weeks 2 through 4. This is when the deeper healing begins to take place. The microdamage to blood vessels starts to repair, inflammation in the erectile tissues subsides, and your neurological pathways begin to reset to more natural patterns. During this phase, many men experience what researchers call erectile recovery fluctuations. Some days your erections will be strong and reliable, other days they may be weaker or inconsistent. This is completely normal and indicates that your system is recalibrating. The fluctuations gradually stabilize as your body finds its new normal. You might also experience changes in your arousal patterns. Sexual thoughts and visual stimuli that hadn't been arousing for years may suddenly become exciting again. This is your brain recovering its natural sensitivity to erotic stimuli that had been overwhelmed by the artificial intensity of destructive masturbation habits. Phase 3 begins around week 4 and can continue for several months. This is when you experience the full restoration of natural erectile function. Most men find that their erections become not only more reliable, but actually stronger and more pleasurable than they had been in years. The erections during this phase have different qualities than what you may have become accustomed to. They tend to develop more gradually but last longer. They're more responsive to mental and emotional arousal rather than requiring intense physical stimulation, and they're often accompanied by increased overall sexual desire and interest. Dr. Michael Chen from the Sexual Recovery Institute has tracked hundreds of men through this healing process. His research shows that men who completely eliminate destructive masturbation habits experience measurable improvements in erectile function within 30 days, with optimal recovery typically occurring between 8 and 12 weeks. But the improvements go beyond just erectile function. Men report increased energy, better sleep, improved mood, and greater confidence in all areas of life. This happens because healthy sexual function is connected to overall vitality and well-being in ways that most men don't realize until they experience the recovery process. The key to successful recovery is complete cessation of the destructive habits, not just reduction. Partial changes or occasional relapses can significantly slow or prevent the healing process. Your body needs consistent, sustained relief from the damaging patterns to fully recover its natural function. What I'm about to share with you is the exact technique that leading urologists teach to their highest-paying private patients, men who demand the best possible sexual function and are willing to invest in premium care. This isn't information you'll find in typical medical consultations or online articles. It's the advanced approach that's reserved for men who can afford specialized sexual health treatment. This technique is called restorative self-stimulation, and it's designed to reverse the damage from years of destructive masturbation while retraining your body for optimal erectile function. The approach is completely different from normal masturbation because the goal isn't immediate gratification, it's long-term sexual health optimization. The foundation of restorative self-stimulation is what medical professionals call graduated pressure conditioning. Instead of using your habitual grip strength, you begin with the lightest possible touch that still provides some sensation. This might feel frustratingly inadequate at first, especially if you've been accustomed to intense pressure, but it's essential for allowing your nerve endings to regain their natural sensitivity. Dr. Sarah Martinez, who runs an exclusive men's sexual health clinic in Beverly Hills, explains that most men need to reduce their typical masturbation pressure by 70 to 80% to allow proper healing. The technique requires using only your fingertips, never your full grip, and applying no more pressure than you would use to test if a surface is wet. The second component is timing modification. Instead of the rapid stimulation that most men use, restorative self-stimulation requires extremely slow, deliberate movements. The goal is to extend the experience to at least 20 to 30 minutes, but not through continuous stimulation. Instead, you use what's called plateau training. Plateau training involves bringing yourself close to climax, then stopping all stimulation until the sensation subsides, then beginning again. This process is repeated multiple times during each session. The technique serves several purposes. It retrains your nervous system to respond to subtle stimulation. It improves your ability to control arousal levels, and it conditions your erectile tissues to maintain blood flow for extended periods without the trauma of continuous intense stimulation. The third component is breathing integration. Most men hold their breath or breathe shallowly during sexual arousal, which actually interferes with optimal blood flow to the penis. Restorative self-stimulation requires conscious, deep breathing throughout the entire experience. The breathing pattern is specific. Inhale slowly for 4 counts, hold for 2 counts, then exhale slowly for 6 counts. This pattern optimizes oxygen delivery to your erectile tissues while activating the parasympathetic nervous system that's responsible for healthy sexual function. The fourth component is mental focus training. Instead of using visual stimulation like pornography or fantasy images, restorative self-stimulation requires focusing entirely on physical sensations. This retrains your brain to respond to actual physical arousal rather than artificial visual stimuli. Many men find this challenging at first because they become dependent on visual stimulation to achieve arousal. But learning to respond to purely physical sensation is crucial for healthy partnered sex, where the stimulation is tactile rather than visual. The complete restorative technique should be practiced no more than twice per week, with at least 2 days between sessions to allow for full recovery and adaptation. More frequent practice can interfere with the healing process and prevent the neurological reconditioning that's essential for long-term improvement. Men who learn and consistently apply this technique report remarkable improvements in their erectile function within 6 to 8 weeks. But more importantly, they develop a completely different relationship with their sexuality, one based on natural responsiveness and sustainable pleasure rather than artificial intensity and immediate gratification. This technique isn't just about fixing erectile problems, it's about optimizing your sexual function to levels that most men never achieve, even in their younger years. The human body's ability to heal and regenerate is remarkable, especially when it comes to sexual function. Even if you've been using destructive masturbation techniques for years or decades, you can begin reversing the damage and seeing significant improvements in just 15 days if you follow the right approach consistently and precisely. The 15-day reversal process works because sexual tissues are among the most responsive in your body to changes in treatment and stimulation patterns. Unlike some types of physical damage that require months or years to heal, the nerve sensitivity, blood vessel function, and neurological conditioning involved in erectile function can improve rapidly when the destructive patterns are eliminated and replaced with healing techniques. Days 1 through 3 focus on immediate damage cessation. During this phase, you completely eliminate all forms of masturbation and sexual self-stimulation. This might seem counterintuitive, but your body needs this recovery period to begin healing from the inflammation and trauma caused by destructive techniques. Many men experience what's called withdrawal anxiety during this phase because they are accustomed to regular sexual release. This anxiety is actually a positive sign. It indicates that your body is beginning to recalibrate its natural arousal and satisfaction mechanisms that may have been suppressed for years. You might also notice increased spontaneous arousal during this phase as your nervous system begins responding to natural stimuli that it had been ignoring. Random erections, sexual dreams, and increased sensitivity to non-sexual touch are all normal parts of the initial healing process. Days 4 through 7 introduce gentle restoration techniques. This is when you begin the restorative self-stimulation approach I described earlier, but with even more caution and gentleness than the standard technique. The goal during this phase isn't sexual satisfaction, it's assessment and gradual reawakening of healthy sensation. During these sessions, pay attention to how your body responds to different types of touch, pressure levels, and stimulation patterns. You're essentially relearning what healthy sexual response feels like after years of artificial conditioning. Many men are surprised to discover that they can achieve arousal and even satisfaction with much lighter touch and slower stimulation than they thought possible. This is your natural sensitivity returning as the numbing effects of destructive techniques begin to fade. Days 8 through 12 focus on sensitivity optimization. By this point, your nerve endings are beginning to recover their natural responsiveness, and you can start exploring more varied and nuanced forms of stimulation. The key during this phase is variety and unpredictability. Instead of using the same repetitive motions that characterize most masturbation, experiment with different pressures, speeds, and patterns. This helps retrain your nervous system to respond to the kind of varied stimulation that occurs during partnered sex. You should notice during this phase that you can achieve satisfying sensations with progressively lighter touch, and that your erections become stronger and more sustainable. These are signs that the healing process is progressing well. Days 13 through 15 are the integration phase, where you begin to experience what healthy, sustainable sexual function feels like. Your erections should be noticeably stronger, more reliable, and more responsive to mental arousal than they were 2 weeks earlier. Most men experience what researchers call the sensitivity breakthrough during this phase, a sudden, dramatic improvement in how sexual stimulation feels. Sensations that felt barely noticeable 2 weeks earlier now feel intensely pleasurable, indicating that your nerve function has substantially recovered. Dr. Michael Thompson from the Advanced Sexual Health Institute has documented this 15-day recovery pattern in over 500 men. His research shows that men who follow the complete process experience an average of 67% improvement in erectile quality and an 83% improvement in sensitivity within 15 days. But the most remarkable finding from Dr. Thompson's research is that the improvements continue accelerating after the initial 15 days. Men who maintain the healthy techniques report continued improvements for months, often achieving better sexual function than they had in their 20s and 30s. The key to success during these 15 days is absolute consistency with the new approach and complete avoidance of any return to destructive habits. Even one session using old techniques can significantly slow the recovery process and require starting over from the beginning. Most men continue making the same destructive masturbation mistakes because they don't recognize the warning signs that indicate damage is occurring. Here are the 5 critical signs that your masturbation technique is harming your erectile function, along with the specific corrections that can immediately begin reversing the damage. Warning sign number 1, you need increasingly intense stimulation to achieve the same level of arousal or satisfaction. If you find yourself gripping harder, moving faster, or requiring more time to reach climax than you used to, this is a clear indication that you're experiencing progressive desensitization. The correction is immediate pressure reduction. Starting with your very next session, reduce your grip pressure by at least 50% from what feels normal. It should feel almost frustratingly light at first. If it doesn't feel too light, you haven't reduced the pressure enough. Most men resist this correction because lighter pressure initially feels less satisfying. But within 1 to 2 weeks, your sensitivity will begin returning, and the lighter pressure will start feeling more pleasurable than the intense pressure ever did. Warning sign number 2. You experience difficulty achieving or maintaining erections during partnered sex, but have no problem during masturbation. This is perhaps the clearest indicator of masturbation-induced sexual dysfunction, because it shows that your erectile capacity is intact, but your conditioning is problematic. The correction requires temporarily eliminating masturbation entirely while focusing on partnered sexual experiences. This allows your nervous system to recalibrate to the different sensations and stimulation patterns involved in partnered sex. Many men find this correction challenging because masturbation has become their primary sexual outlet, but the temporary sacrifice is essential for restoring your ability to respond sexually to a partner. Warning sign number 3. You feel soreness, irritation, or numbness in your penis after masturbation. Any form of physical discomfort following sexual activity indicates that you're causing tissue damage that will accumulate over time and potentially become permanent. The immediate correction is to stop all sexual activity until the discomfort completely resolves. Then, when you resume, use significantly less pressure and shorter duration. If you experience any discomfort, you're still being too aggressive and need to reduce intensity further. Warning sign number 4. You require visual stimulation like pornography to achieve or maintain arousal during masturbation. While this might seem normal in our culture, it actually indicates that your brain has become dependent on artificial stimulation rather than responding to natural physical arousal. The correction involves eliminating all visual stimulation during masturbation and learning to respond purely to physical sensation. This might make arousal more difficult initially, but it's essential for developing the kind of responsive sexuality that works well with partners. Warning sign number 5. You experience what's called sexual anhedonia, reduced interest in partnered sex or difficulty feeling satisfied even after orgasm. This indicates that your dopamine and reward pathways have been disrupted by overstimulation. The correction requires taking extended breaks from all sexual activity, typically 7 to 14 days, to allow your neurotransmitter systems to reset. During this break, many men rediscover their natural interest in partnered intimacy and find that sexual experiences become more satisfying when they resume. Dr. Lisa Chen from the Sexual Neuroscience Research Institute emphasizes that recognizing these warning signs early is crucial because the damage becomes more difficult to reverse the longer destructive patterns continue. Men who address these issues within the first few years of noticing symptoms typically recover full function within weeks or months. But men who ignore these warning signs for years or decades may require much longer recovery periods and more intensive intervention to restore healthy sexual function. The most important thing to understand is that these warning signs are your body's way of communicating that damage is occurring. Ignoring them or trying to push through them will only make the problems worse and potentially create permanent dysfunction. By paying attention to these signals and making the necessary corrections immediately, you can not only prevent further damage, but actually improve your sexual function beyond what you've experienced in years. Your sexual health is too important to leave to chance or outdated habits that are silently destroying your erectile function. The techniques and corrections I've shared with you today have helped thousands of men over 60 reclaim their sexual vitality and confidence. Don't let another day pass using masturbation methods that are sabotaging your intimate relationships and overall well-being. Click on the next video appearing on your screen right now to discover even more powerful strategies for maintaining peak sexual health and performance after 60. Your partner will thank you, your confidence will soar, and you'll feel like the man you're meant to be. I'll see you there.